Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a game where the odds are always against you? Today, I want to take you on a journey of awareness where we'll uncover 10 toxic strategies that a narcissistic woman might subtly use. These are not just manipulative behaviors, they are silent assaults on your mind, emotions, and spirit, especially after the phase of love bombing ends and the stage of devaluation begins. Imagine this. The cycle of idealization and devaluation is like an invisible rope tightening around you, pulling you deeper into chaos. It exploits the deepest human needs for acceptance and love, while manipulating the reward and motivation systems in your mind. When a narcissist dumps their negative emotions onto you, it's not just a reflection of their own pain, but also a facade they construct to shield their fragile, rejected ego. They cast you as the rescuer, burdening you with the responsibility to prove your worth. But the truth is, this game is rigged so you can never win. You dedicate your time, energy, money, and even your soul to conquer an impossible task, earning their unconditional love and approval. Yet the harder you try, the clearer it becomes that this is a long game where you face only two outcomes: being discarded or being entirely psychologically controlled. Let today be the moment you pause and confront the truth, not to judge, but to awaken. Because only by understanding these tactics can you reclaim your power and break free from the cycle of abuse. Join me as we uncover the path to liberation. In today's video, we're going to unveil the secrets behind 10 toxic strategies commonly used by a covert narcissistic woman. These are sophisticated psychological attacks, carefully designed to dominate and control you, gradually turning you into someone constantly craving her approval, striving to please her, and eventually giving up everything you have: your time, energy, and even your self-esteem. These strategies aren't fleeting behaviors, they're a calculated system of control, executed subtly to keep you trapped in the relationship. But today you won't be lost anymore. Join me as we delve into these 10 toxic tactics, presented in no particular order, so you can identify them and protect yourself from these mental traps. 1. She builds false trust to manipulate you. A covert narcissistic woman will quickly make you believe that you are special in her eyes. She won't hesitate to share her most sensitive stories and memories, as if you're the only person she's ever trusted this deeply. However, when the love bombing phase ends, her mask starts to slip. Instead of maintaining that initial trust, she begins acting as though trusting you was a huge mistake. The accusations start piling up that you don't prioritize her, you don't protect her, and you don't make her happy as you promised. This entire negative shift, according to her, is your fault. And to restore the image of the perfect woman you once fell in love with, you're made to feel that you need to prove yourself, that you're good enough and worthy of her love and trust. She cleverly communicates, both through words and actions, that if you want to hold on to her ideal version or achieve the amazing future she promised, you need to become the man she expects. The pressure quickly becomes overwhelming. You feel the need to change, to try harder, to learn how to satisfy her and meet her endless demands. But to keep this game going, she ensures you never completely lose hope. She offers small rewards, a fleeting moment of happiness, an emotionally charged conversation, or even a brief physical intimacy. These breadcrumbs convince you that your efforts are paying off, that you're getting closer to satisfying her. Then, suddenly, boom, one careless word or unintentional action triggers her rage. She becomes disappointed, distant, and accusatory once more. Sweetness turns into bitterness in an instant, no matter what you do. This cycle doesn't just exhaust you, it reprograms you to believe you're not good enough, that you have flaws to fix, and that unless you meet her demands, you're undeserving of her love or anyone else's. 2. Passive aggression. The covert narcissist's subtle weapon. A covert narcissistic woman doesn't need to shout or engage in direct confrontation to control you. Instead, she employs a far more insidious weapon: passive aggression. She's quick to create arguments out of thin air, accusing you of vague offenses like having a bad mood, giving her a displeased look, or using a disrespectful tone even when you've done nothing wrong. She repeats these unclear accusations over and over, wearing down your patience. Eventually, you feel confused, pressured, and unable to hold it together anymore. That's when she gets what she wants, an emotional outburst from you. Then, she flips the narrative, claiming that your reaction is the real issue and the cause of all the conflict. But she doesn't always confront directly. Sometimes she plays the perfect victim, pretending to be sad or hurt without explaining why. She goes silent, refuses to communicate, and leaves you feeling anxious and desperate to apologize for a mistake you can't even identify. She makes you feel guilty, even when you have no idea what's going on. When it's all over, you look back and realize there was no real reason behind the conflict. It was all a meticulously orchestrated drama designed to control you, to vent her negative emotions, and to make you bear the consequences. But this isn't just about releasing frustration. This is how she maintains power in the relationship. Her passive aggression not only erodes your confidence, but also makes you believe that you're the source of all the problems, that you are the issue. Remember, passive aggression is a powerful tool for psychological manipulation. It makes you doubt yourself, trapping you in a cycle of trying to please her but never succeeding. The most important step is recognizing this game so you can break free from the toxic cycle she has intentionally created. 3. She is extremely defensive. When you try to share something important, whether it's a concern, hurt feelings, or discomfort, she doesn't listen. Instead, she quickly dismisses, downplays, or outright ignores your emotions. She has no intention of understanding or compromising. Instead, she builds a solid wall of defense, treating any disagreement or constructive criticism as a direct threat to her ego. Even when the problem clearly stems from her, don't expect her to admit fault or take responsibility. To her, admitting mistakes is not only unacceptable but also perceived as a weakness. And on the rare occasion she does apologize, be cautious. It's not genuine remorse but a calculated tactic to shift the narrative. Before you realize it, the blame is redirected back to you. Her defensiveness isn't just about evading accountability, it's a tool for maintaining control. It leaves you feeling like you're always in the wrong, always the problem, gradually eroding your ability to stand up for your own emotions. 4. She is completely indifferent to your feelings. Your emotions, especially those tied to her actions, are often met with cold indifference. She not only lacks patience but dismisses them with an air of disregard, as if your feelings are unworthy of acknowledgement or existence. When you shed tears or express sadness, she remains unmoved. There's no empathy or comfort, just a chilling detachment. But it doesn't stop there. She sees your vulnerability as a sign of weakness, an opportunity to reinforce her power, and a weapon to wield against you in the future. If you once believed that sharing your fears, deep wounds, or past traumas would foster understanding and connection, she turns that expectation into an illusion. The secrets you entrusted her with may later be used as ammunition in arguments. Not only does she invalidate your feelings, but she also twists them into evidence against you, justifying her actions and diminishing you within the relationship. Imagine this: when you open up, she doesn't just remain distant but transforms what you share into a tool of manipulation. It's no longer a relationship built on trust. It becomes a stage where she holds the reins of power over your emotions. To her, your feelings aren't something to respect or protect. Instead, they're part of her strategy, a means to manipulate, control, and gradually weaken you. The scariest part is that she convinces you that your pain is your fault, that you're not strong enough, and that you deserve everything she puts you through. In such a scenario, not only do you lose empathy from your partner, but you also lose the ability to safeguard your own emotions. This isn't mere indifference, it's a deliberate method to crush your self-esteem and keep you ensnared in her toxic cycle. 5. She puts you in a no-win situation. In a relationship with her, You'll quickly realize one thing: no matter what you do or say, it's always wrong in her eyes. There's no escape, no way to satisfy her, as every action of yours is twisted into a reason for her dissatisfaction. Imagine this: during an intense argument, you decide to go for a walk to cool down. She immediately accuses you of running away, being uncaring, and avoiding responsibility. But if you choose to stay and continue the conversation, she'll claim you're being too aggressive or unnecessarily pressuring her. Every choice you make, no matter how well-intentioned, is turned into an excuse for her discontent. It's an exhausting cycle where you're constantly trying to please her but never succeeding. She creates a situation where you can't win, a psychological game that makes you doubt yourself and feel like everything you do is wrong. This isn't just temporary frustration. It's a deliberate tactic to keep you in a state of helplessness, anxiety, and dependency on her. In her world, there's no objective right or wrong, only endless disappointment and relentless pressure directed at you. You're not just emotionally drained, you lose confidence in your ability to make decisions altogether. 6. She constantly compares you, keeping you in a cycle of never good enough. No matter what you do or how hard you try, she always compares you to others, and you always fall short. All the time, money and energy you invest in her seem worthless. Your efforts vanish under her judgmental gaze, where you are perpetually not good enough. You keep trying harder, working longer, and hoping she'll finally recognize and appreciate what you bring to the table. Instead, you're left feeling powerless, as if everything is your fault. She makes you believe that if love, connection, or intimacy is missing, it's because you didn't do enough or do it right. Meanwhile, she contributes little to the relationship but acts as if she carries all the burden. Her hurtful comparisons don't just make you feel like a failure, they also push you into a state of constantly trying to prove your worth. The names of others, the perfect relationships she mentions, become the standards you're supposed to meet. This awakens a competitive instinct in you, a desire to show that you can be as good as or better than anyone she compares you to. But this isn't a fair race, it's an endless cycle. The more you try, the deeper you sink into the game she's orchestrated. Every step you think you're taking forward only pulls you further away from freedom, peace, and your true self. The truth is, it's not that you're not good enough, it's that she never intended for you to feel enough. This isn't about you, it's about her controlling you, little by little, through constant comparisons and never-ending demands. 7. She turns your efforts into a never-ending competition. A covert narcissistic woman constantly evaluates and measures you, turning your actions into a high-pressure contest. She might casually say you scored 6 out of 10 at a certain event, or that the vacation you meticulously planned only met 40% of her expectations. Nothing you do is ever good enough in her eyes. From compliments, attention, and expenses to the time you dedicate to her, everything is criticized and belittled. She doesn't stop at judging, she compares you to others, making you feel inferior and pushing you to try even harder. But no matter what you do, she always finds a reason to criticize, nitpick, and devalue you. She creates the perception that your efforts are merely the bare minimum, that you need to work significantly harder to maintain the relationship. Even if she appears satisfied momentarily, it's only temporary. Soon enough, you'll face new criticisms, fresh disappointments, and the cycle repeats. If you grew up in an environment where recognition was hard to earn, you might easily fall into this familiar trap. You'll crave every bit of approval, becoming someone who constantly strives yet never feels sufficient. The bitter truth is, you can't win a game she's designed. This is a competition with no end, where every effort only drains you further. You might think that you just need to try a little harder or wait a bit longer for things to improve. But be cautious. This long-term game could cost you years of your life in exhaustion, chasing a validation she never intends to give. 8. Her boundaries, rules that only serve her. A covert narcissistic woman excels at setting boundaries, but these boundaries always work in her favor. Every rule and limit she establishes becomes inviolable, and you are expected to comply. In contrast, any boundaries or rules you try to set to protect yourself are ignored or dismissed. If you express a need or make a request, she quickly invalidates it as unimportant or even mocks you for daring to ask. This double standard is not just unfair, but a tool to maintain her control. She creates an environment where everything revolves around her, while your needs and limits are minimized, or worse, ridiculed as foolish and undeserving of attention. In this relationship, boundaries are not about mutual respect, but a calculated strategy to enforce her power over you. You'll quickly realize that in her world, every rule is designed to serve her, not to protect you. 9. She wants total control over your life. A covert narcissistic woman isn't just curious about your life. She desires absolute control over every aspect of it. From your shopping habits to your gym routine to whom you interact with, she wants to know and intervene. She might even accuse you of wrongdoing, often without any evidence to support her claims. But this isn't mere jealousy. In many cases, it's a deep-seated need for total control, where she asserts her dominance by keeping you under constant surveillance. She doesn't stop at asking what you've done, but scrutinizes how you did it. No matter how much effort you put in, she always finds something to criticize. Over time, you begin doubting yourself, feeling as though every action is flawed, insufficient, or simply wrong. Gradually, you become dependent on her. Every decision, no matter how small, requires her approval. You lose confidence in your abilities, always fearing that any choice might lead to guilt, silent treatment, or unpredictable outbursts. Here's what you need to recognize: no matter what you do, the outcome is always the same. There's no decision good enough to satisfy her, because her true goal isn't perfection. It's keeping you trapped in her web of control. She sets up a cycle where you constantly feel the need to prove yourself but never succeed. And this is how she maintains her power, by ensuring you feel perpetually inadequate, never independent enough to escape her grasp. 10. She gradually strips away your identity and self-worth. Over time, her relentless control and manipulation erode your sense of self. What was once your self-esteem, confidence, and inner values gets worn down bit by bit until nothing remains. You find yourself constantly adjusting, changing who you are, trying to figure out what you've done wrong to please her. But no matter how much you try, the feeling of failure clings to you, trapping you in an endless cycle of self-doubt and self-blame. Eventually, you'll look in the mirror and no longer recognize the person you used to be. Instead, you see a shadow, an empty shell, drained of energy and belief in yourself. Worse, you may begin to believe the narrative she's crafted about you, that you're the problem, that you're unworthy, that all the issues in the relationship are your fault. This collapse isn't just emotional, it deeply impacts your spirit. You become a person completely under her influence, like an obedient puppy, living to seek her approval and satisfaction but never attaining it. But here's the most important truth: awareness can set you free. Once you identify these toxic tactics and recognize the abusive pattern you've been trapped in, you'll understand that this isn't your fault. You'll see that rather than being a pet under her control, you have the power to reclaim your life. This awareness is the first step to escaping the toxic cycle and rediscovering your true self. You may feel stuck, as if there's no way out of the manipulation and control she has created. But remember, you are not a perpetual victim, and you don't have to live under the shadow of her control. The real power lies in awareness. When you recognize these toxic strategies, you're taking a significant step toward reclaiming your life. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your worth is inherent, and no one has the right to take that away from you. Stop playing the game she's orchestrated. Don't let her words and actions dictate how you see yourself. You deserve to live a life of freedom, freedom from manipulation, freedom from dependency, and freedom to rediscover who you truly are. And remember, this journey doesn't have to be a lonely one. Seek help from those you trust, from professionals, or from supportive communities. Every small step you take today will lead you to a stronger, happier, and more peaceful life. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this content helpful, Please share it with someone who needs to hear the truth. And always remember, you are never alone on your journey to reclaiming yourself.